openly about this is Will Young, who's also a companion of Kipper, whose brother has a mental health problem. But very often those are not the kind of topics that most artists would want to be seen. If it's sort of kids and cuddly animals, you're probably fine. You know, if it's the sort of more ones that polarise people's reactions, then you probably find that you have to work harder to get an artist willing to sign up to it. Yeah.
I'm doing research for my dissertation into DIY artists and emerging artists who avoid going through the major record label route.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't know that much about, like you said earlier, that pretty much all the deals happening at the minute are 360 deals. And I'm really trying to figure out, in my mind, why an emerging artist would choose a record label, other than the things we've said earlier about, you know, the kind of reputation and things like that. But do you think nowadays, with so many options like home recording capabilities and, you know, the different distribution routes you can take, that really they're like, part of my dissertation is weighing up the argument to just go and sign up with a major record label and have it handled by yourself, by them, sorry, or to go through more of the effort and take the different routes. And you know, what's your view on that, and how do you think the future lies anyway?
I'm not doing a dissertation for you. I just would say money.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say is money. I think that it is relative. I mean, I am an artist lawyer, right? But I still say that you offered most artists a major label deal with a very large chunk of money, and most of them would take it. Even those that say, I'm purist, I'm niche, I won't sell my soul. When it comes to the crunch, when you've been surviving on 100 quid a week for God knows how long, and that moment in the spotlight with that major deal and the big advance comes, most artists will take it. And although the advances have dropped significantly, they are still major sums of money. In terms of, you know, and if you get even a reasonable amount of bargaining power behind you, you're talking 300 grand, right?
All still recoupable though.
All still recoupable,
Yeah.
but in the meantime it's in your bank.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And yes, for every artist who signs to a major deal, they all hate them, okay? They take the money, and after about 18 months, they hate it, because they've sold their soul. And the artists have to produce commercial records in order to justify that, and the pressure is on them. It takes a very, very rare artist to survive a major label signing without some kind of damage. Someone here was at XL, I'm not sure who is, and I think Adele is probably one of the few that has managed to maintain her own lifestyle and her own way of doing things for so far. But, you know, God willing she keeps that going, but she's an exception. I have a lot of damaged clients that were signed to majors, but they did it because they needed that cash, or they felt they wanted that wider exposure at the time. So that's right.
Yeah.
So you had a question here.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in film, and you mentioned that film and music is kind of becoming like a bigger thing now.
Yes.
What do you think is that? Is it just easier to attract the artists because they need the money, or is it that film companies have the money and they, I don't know, that you can spend it everywhere? Do you have any ideas of that?
I think it's the online exposure that's done it. You know, with the greater bandwidth that we have available, the fact that you can now, you know, you can watch a film on the train without, you know, too much trouble.
Yeah, the thing is that what I've noticed recently is that you see recent tracks on trailers for movies for animation stuff that is not really a big deal, and you see great artists giving their music for some trailers, and you think, whoa, why?
Money. Money. Quite often an artist will do an ad for Japan or Thailand or somewhere because they want to build a new house, or they want or they want, you know, they need a bit of cash quickly. They'll do an ad or a trailer for a country that isn't their home country, because then country will probably not see it, and they clean up on it. It's always money. You've had it up, I'll come back to you with it. Later.
In your opinion, how do you think that contracts have evolved over the past few decades? So do you think that they've progressed in any way? Have they got more in depth, more clauses? And do you think this is for the better or for the worse?
Contracts as opposed to types of deals, because
Yeah.
you know I don't like the 360s, right?
Yeah.
They've got longer because we've added page after page to do with digital. So there's a page after page of new definitions for digital and online uses and how they're going to account and how they're going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
So every time the industry evolves, we have more clauses in the contracts. There has been a simplification in some respects of how royalties are calculated. Because we used to have really ridiculous ideas like they'd take a deduction for making the CD packaging, right? On most deals now that deduction is gone because it was always false. And we are getting somewhat simpler royalty calculations.
Okay.
Every time there's a high profile case, we will see a reaction in the contract. And when there is a new piece of law like the extension of copyright I was telling you about, the orphan laws, all those kind of things, we then, or as lawyers, cover our asses by sticking extra clauses in the contracts. So they tend to be mostly reactive, the changes, to something that is happening in the industry. So if you're going to go into a different model, you have to reinvent your contracts to deal with that model, do you see what I mean? Every now and again, Beggars went public about 3 years ago saying they were going to completely strip back their contracts. They were going to, nobody's going to need lawyers anymore because the contracts are going to be incredibly simple and everybody can understand them. As far as I can see, the Beggars contracts have not changed at all. And so what that was all about, I'm really not quite sure. It doesn't seem to have followed through, and I don't quite know whether maybe it didn't get taken up by enough people to make it work, I don't know. But generally speaking, the contracts are more and more complex. And I have to spend 4 hours reading a Sony contract once. And that's before I even start trying to get my head around what needs to change. Horrible, horrible things. And they bury the nasty things on page 84. When you're really tired and really fed up, they stick in some nasty, nasty clause. So now I read from the back.
I'm not a music expert. I went to the theatre side of
Yeah.
things, and I found it really interesting when you mentioned the similarities between 360 deals and the really useful group contract.
Yes.
You based it on it. Can you expand on that and what the similarities are?
The really useful group had, how can I explain it? When they were doing a production, they would invest in the production, but they would also intake a piece of all the spin-offs from that production. So they would, if the production went outside the West End on tour, they would take a percentage of the touring show. They would take not only the box office and the program cuts, but they would also, if they would sell merchandising apart from in the theatre, outside the theatre, a production as brand, if you like, and taking it into all sorts of different directions. So they started that idea of not just getting the box office from that particular production, but spreading it in the round. And then the accountant that drew that scheme up for the Really Useful Group was then a consultant on the Robbie negotiation. So he was basically reinventing the idea that he'd had before and getting paid very large sums of money for doing so, to apply that to an all-round investment in Robbie as production. See what I mean? Yeah.
You know earlier when you were saying artists can pay for services from a label,
Yes.
15,000, can you buy different services from different labels, or do labels only say you can only buy services from us if you don't buy them from?
Ooh, that's a nice thought. It's too early days to know if people would do that. I can see it being difficult in practice. because you'd have to say you bought your distribution from Warner and your press and promotion from Universal. The press and promotion people would have to talk to the distribution people to make sure that they were working together, right? Not quite sure how happy they would be to have that interaction when they've got their own press and promotion people in-house. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can see difficulties with it, although in principle, I think, you know, because you're just buying services, I think in principle you could probably do it. In reality, not so sure.
That probably would be the best idea if you were an artist, because you want it to work as best as possible. And if you knew that you had people from different labels trying to work together, then you probably
Yeah, but
know
you know,
that that's not.
I could see an attraction to it though. Say, for example, I'm not saying that they are, but say Warner's in-house press team were crap, right? But Universal's were brilliant,
Yeah.
but Warner's had quite a good distribution network. Then it would be kind of quite tempted to see if you could try and kind of make it work. What I would probably do in those circumstances is that I would use an independent press person who was used to working with the major label that I had my distribution with. It's probably how I
There's
do it.
plenty of really good independent.
Yeah, there are plenty of very, very good press and promotion independents, very much so.
Yeah, I want to ask you about, because you said that very often when you work with an artist, you get approached by a label and who's saying we have this brand that wants to work with you. Do you get approached by brands outside of that, or does everything go through the label? And also, when you negotiate a deal, are you, like, is the artist manager involved in